Welcome to the DNA Talks podcast, where we take on the mission of unlocking the code of your genetics. This season is all about you, upgrading your health, not just on the surface, but down to the root cause. Join us as your clinicians at the DNA company investigate your DNA and beyond. The intention of this podcast is to enhance your lifestyle by changing what is in your control. This does not substitute the medical advice given by your personal doctor, therapist, and other healthcare professionals. Well, here's a treat for you guys. Look at that. There's two people sitting here. We got a dynamic duo today. We got Leah Rush and Kyle Boyd. So first of all, thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good for you guys to be here. And we're going to talk about something that I've heard buzz around, but didn't quite understand. And which is why we needed you here to explain so everybody knows what's possible and what they have access to. And there's something out there called HeartMath. And my thinking is there's no numbers in my heart. There's no geometry. I don't understand what you're talking about. So simple breakdown. Let's just jump right into it. What is it?
Yeah, so it's a good word for it because it really unites something that has typically been seen as more spiritual, which is connection to your heart, but from a very scientific way. So I love HeartMath as a title for the people that really have done this research and created a lot of the techniques that help you to get into coherence.
Yeah.
And you can say, what is heart coherence?
So HeartMath, really, they study heart coherence, and they teach people how to get into heart coherence. And heart coherence is when your heart, mind, and emotions are in energetic alignment. And so how they basically teach people to do this is rhythmic breathing through the heart and then accessing elevated emotions like gratitude, appreciation, joy, bliss. This process releases all these biochemical changes in the body that promote growth and repair. You feel amazing, you feel lighter, you feel happier, and then there's all other cool side effects like you're more synchronistic, your intuition increases, some magical benefits as well.
Yeah, so it's really this practical system because I think most people describe being in their head a lot, and you can be even, by your DNA set up to be somebody who naturally really lives in your head. Plus life, especially American life, it's really set up for you to just be in your ego, be in your mind all the time. So when you do these practices, and it's essentially about really connecting to being in your body, being in your heart, accessing renewing emotions. And what happens is, even with just the littlest bit of practice, like they've done studies where people practice for 5 minutes a day, and in a month, they are 30% more coherent. What that looks like when you measure it is, people know about HRV, and a lot of people have a monitor and use it for sports and stuff like that. Basically, if you have a high HRV, it means that, put it in a simple way, on your in-breath, your heart actually speeds up, and on your out-breath, it slows down. So that will give you a high HRV number. Coherence further makes it so when you look at a graph of your heart, instead of it being very erratic, which drains all of your systems, it looks like a smooth sine wave. So you're really using energy in all of your systems in a better way, which affects everything.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You're summarizing. So that word coherence really nails it because we're into this for 3 minutes and I'm sold. I already get it, which is, I understand. So when we're dealing with people on a healing journey, right? Often where they're stuck is their nervous system.
Yeah.
And often where their nervous system is stuck is their beliefs, which are coming from the heart. What people don't understand is that there's 40 million neural cells in your heart that think that those emotions you feel are a form of thought that your brain receives and then acts on. And if, just like you said, if there's misalignment between what you believe here but what you truly believe here, that your heart doesn't lie. Right? The brain, you can lie to yourself all day long and do whatever you want, say whatever you want, but the truth still lives here. And that coherence is such an important word when you bring these together. What I didn't know is that there was somebody out there actively creating a process to get people there, which is really awesome. So you said measurable. So what do you measure? You said 30% improvement. How do you know? What are you measuring?
Yeah, well, so basically there's device called an inner balance and an M wave that measures your HRV, your heart rate variability. So, are you
Mhm.
familiar with heart rate variability?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, one of the things that's really fascinating that I'm super that caught me on heart coherence was when Joe Dispenza talks about emotional baselines. So,
Mm.
have you ever heard of like an emotional baseline?
No.
Basically, if you monitored somebody for a year, what you would see is that they're pretty much experiencing the same emotions repetitively over time. And so,
Mm.
based off of childhood and everything, when we get to a certain age, we've developed this emotional baseline. And it's basically how we respond emotionally on average. And so it's kind of fascinating. But what you'll find is that it's actually not the external environment that's creating emotions for people. It's actually their emotional baseline. It's
Mm.
how they've formed their emotional responses in their life. And so when you get to, say, the age of 36, like myself, you have a very predictable emotional baseline. And
Mm.
so there's these things called inner balances and M waves that are devices that teach you how to improve your emotional baseline. So it's
Mm.
basically, like we had said, when you practice doing rhythmic breathing through the heart, and moving yourself into elevated emotions like gratitude, appreciation, bliss, joy, you'll actually increase your emotional baseline. So you could be going from somebody who's vibrating at the frequency of fear quite often to somebody who's very grateful the majority of the time. And so when I started learning that you could shift your emotional baseline through practice, I wanted to find ways to hold people accountable in
Mm.
practicing heart coherence, because the more accountable we can hold each other in practicing, say, gratitude, appreciation, this rhythmic breathing to the heart, the more likely we are to shift our emotional baselines, basically become entirely new beings, to go from
Yeah.
like a fear junkie to somebody who's just walking in gratitude. And so that's when Leah and I came up with the group, the Heart Coherence Collaborative. And what
Cool.
we do is we hold these big events where we basically get 30-day heart coherence challenges. Really, what it is just like an event to get people to raise their emotional baseline. You
Mm.
practice heart coherence every single day for 30 days. And at the end of it, you have a new emotional baseline. I think you could speak to how we monitor that a little bit better.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to say the great thing about this is that we have so much knowledge. Like you might even you read a book by Eckhart Tolle, and you want to be living in a certain way, or you want to be. People talk about mindfulness. Um,
Mm.
I actually think it might be better to be mindless, but not in the way that you would typically think. But basically, what we encourage people to do through this daily practice and through shifting during times when they would have went to their automatic emotional baseline states, it's like it's moving from this knowledge that we all have about how we want to live to actually being. So in
Mm.
this very practical way, the first step is that you're focusing your attention on your heart. They just the mere fact that you focus attention somewhere, changes happen.
Mm.
It changes what the neurons are doing, and it actually changes. Energy is light, so it's essentially you're creating light there, which sounds kind of crazy, but if you study this stuff, you can really see how just attention shifts actual
Mm.
energy. So you put the energy there.
Should we try it real quick?
Yeah, do you
Is
want
it
to
cool
do
if we
it
just do it?
together?
We do a
Let's
quick
do it.
little.
Let's jump right in.
We'll
Yeah.
jump into the heart real quick. Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it. All right. So if everyone could put your hands on your heart, you can close your eyes if you want. And now focus your attention in the area of your heart, and imagine that your breath is flowing in and out through your heart, slower and deeper than usual. You can try a pace of 5 seconds on the in breath, 5 seconds on the out breath, in and out through the heart. Now, as you're breathing in and out through the heart, I want you to think about a place in your life that makes you feel a state of ease. This could be at a relative's house, it could be by the ocean, by a river, somewhere in nature. Just really think about any place that makes you feel ease and try to be there now and feel that ease with each breath in and out through the heart.
And next, you're going to go back to a memory of somebody thanking you, somebody giving you gratitude or a gift. Be there and breathe in the feeling, that beautiful feeling of absorbing someone's gratitude for you, someone's thank you, someone's appreciation. Smile and breathe into that.
So you continue to breathe in and out through your heart. Think about someone in your life that you really appreciate. It could be a mentor or a friend or a child or a pet. To really feel that appreciation as you breathe in and out through the heart.
And lastly, when you're breathing in and out of your heart, think of someone, or it could even be a pet, that's so easy to love. Breathe in and out and imagine as a pink beam of light that you are sending out your love to this person or this pet, just lighting them up with your love. And if you closed your eyes whenever you're ready, you can open them back up.
So how do you
So
feel, Kashif?
when you said earlier, breathe through your heart, you mentioned it a few times. I was going to ask you, what are you talking about? But as soon as I tried to do it, I felt it,
Yeah.
right? So when you consciously direct biology, you know that you can when you try, right? And so that feeling of like literally felt like a bypass. So,
Mhm.
anyways, yeah, in a few minutes, I'm sure anyone who participated completely changed their state.
Yeah.
And now you're in a different place, and now you come back to this world, and the value of things change, the meaning of things change, your priorities change within minutes,
Mhm.
right? So this is what coherence feels like, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
beautiful part about it is I had started practicing coherence when I read Joe Dispenza's book. And when I first did it, I felt good. I felt light. But I had read that there was like a deeper experience to this that felt even more amazing. And so I kept practicing. And then there was just this day that I just broke free. It was like my heart broke wide open. And I
Mm,
was experiencing uh, this openness in the emotional realm that I don't remember experiencing since I was like a kid running free playing
mm,
sports. And all of a sudden, I was just so grateful. Uh, it was like this magical moment. And what it made me realize was that I was living by the hormones of stress so
yeah.
significantly that I put a wall up to my heart. And it took a little while to really, you know, breathe that away. But when I did breathe that away, it opened me up into an entirely new life that has been more beautiful and amazing than anything I could have ever dreamed of. But I had to get beyond that fear that was kind of just something that was done to me as a product of the environment I grew up in.
So do you feel like your priorities are changed, or do you just feel like you handle things differently? Like, meaning, do you now avoid business deals and stressful situations and people, or you just know how to better cope with them?
It's very interesting. And that's a great question, Kashif. The heart knows. Like the brain thinks, but the heart knows.
Mm.
And so when I get into the heart, what I'm supposed to be doing comes to me so easily and effortlessly without all the strain of the brain, without all the force of the brain. It's like
Mm.
it's just, you know, here you go. This is where you
Yeah.
should be going, Kyle. The intuition of the brain is beautiful. For me personally, without getting too woo woo, I am tapping into a higher intelligence when I do this
Got it.
coherence. And that, you know, me doing coherence versus me not doing coherence looks a lot different. You can ask Leah, my life is a lot more light, easy, and I would say abundant as well. There's just something about the heart that when you get into it, you find yourself full of opportunity, full of just ease, and yeah, you handle everything better.
And how often do you guys practice? Is this like a daily routine, multi-time per day to routine, once a week? Like what does your week look like?
Yeah, so I've lived a lot of different versions of that. Like baseline is probably just to do gratitude in the morning and do some breathing, and that's the baseline. Lately, I have actually been, kind of inspired. We're about to start a challenge on September 26th.
Mm.
So I have started to do even more practice. And, the really cool thing that happens is I'm, I think at my core, I'm more of like a striver, and obviously about genetics and how the way your brain and your dopamine system is set up, you can be set up to be more of the achiever.
Mhm.
Also, your family history, all of that kind of stuff. And essentially, it's like you're looking for something outside of yourself
Mm.
to make you happy. That's kind of what we're all doing. You're looking to get that reward or get that outside validation, or we're all looking for some person to perform in the perfect way that's just going to make me feel great. And so the thing that I've been doing more, and it's so cool, is that it's like it really affects you every time you're even just annoyed. When you study and look at what your coherence looks like, it's a long time after even you're annoyed for 2 minutes that you're affected. And
Mm.
in a very practical sense, if you've got that erratic part instead of the coherent one, it trains all of your systems. So you're more stressed, you have less energy, and everything is operating less efficiently. So
Mm.
I have been really good lately where if I feel like before we came on, we had an issue with the computer. And so that feels like that could be pretty stressful because we know you're waiting for us. And we were
Right.
like, we're all set up. We came in here all easy. And then it was like, oh no, this isn't working. You see the time ticking? And so taking all of those little moments, because I've even been restudying the science and it always motivates me when I look at it. So in all of these little parts, if you start shifting, if you start using every place that you're going to get annoyed or stressed or angry or resentful, it's like you just downshift into your breath. The great
Mm.
one to go to is breathing in ease because it doesn't have a lot of emotional attachment. Like even sometimes if you start considering like appreciation for somebody, especially for a woman's brain, you might start worrying. Like
Mm.
you can find your emotions that are really good. So I have some go tos. Like I have certain people in my life that I love. So it's like I feel myself get a little like frazzled or annoyed. It's like you just downshift into that slow breath, and I will use something easy, someone easy to love, or an easy feeling that I've mastered.
Mm.
And then I don't have that erratic couple of hours where I'm completely affected by two
Right.
minutes of stress. So once you start employing it, it can become really like second nature and
Mm.
really change totally how you live. And then you'll end up getting less stressed automatically when
Got it.
things happen.
Mm.
But even if you do, like I said, 5 minutes a day, 5 times a week, that's a big deal that you're 30% more coherent after 30
Mm.
days.
Yeah, I
And
personally am more of like a heart coherence junkie where,
He's the addict.
I'm an addict. Yeah, I know, but
You're the addict.
my, my brain has such a strong pull. There's been times where I don't do heart coherence and I'm so in my head, and the heart can feel actually so far away. And so, like, for me, when that happens, going into the heart, it actually takes time for me to build that relationship back up with my heart. But when I build that relationship back up with my heart, there's like this incredible softening that happens, and I'm telling you, it's a different life. And so when I get there, I like to do whatever I can to stay there. And for me, that's heart coherence all day. And literally, and I feel joyous to the point where, like, something happens, I could just cry in gratitude. It's just it's a different way of life. And when you get there, everything's lighter. So the more you practice, the greater the depth, like the greater the ease, the more resilient you are to handle all of life's stresses. So when I practice all the time, something happens, there's no problems. It's like, oh, it's all good. If I'm not practicing, anything that happens, it's like, I'm ready to go to war.
So I think all of what you're saying, I think there's a lesson in this for the audience where if I look at your guys' DNA, which by the way I genetically profiled you. Uh, Here, there's something that stands out, which is not aligning with what's happening here, and that to me is an indicator of what you're doing working. When I look at your DNA, I see that Leah has a more genetic propensity towards trauma, emotional intelligence, using emotion as a filter, and Kyle doesn't. Kyle is a logical robot that does not use emotion as a filter. But now listen to the past 20 minutes and what do they sound like? It sounds like Kyle is very emotionally connected, very emotionally intelligent, uses a tool, cries out of gratitude, right? But he's wired to be a logical, cold robot, which is useful in many places, which is also what would drive you towards a high cortisol state, right? So now, did you experience that the work you did, and why I'm bringing this up, because your DNA is your hardwiring. It's how you're born. Your habits, your environment, nutrition, your lifestyle, in combination with your DNA equal the net outcome. And what it sounds like to me, that this habit you have, which may have started as a coping mechanism, life sucks because of stress. How do I get out? Now you've transcended your wiring and you become a different person and your genetics don't matter anymore. And the same I'm seeing in Leah, where she is wired for trauma, emotion, etc. Meanwhile, if you listen to how she's speaking, there's a little bit of that, but there's also a lot of logic and information and logistics and procedure and not what she's wired for. So it's kind of like coherence means finding the middle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I love, you know, it's so important that we've got our reports and we found out about all of this stuff, but it does just help you know that there's a pathway out because, I mean, your DNA combined with your childhood, I don't know, it seems to me mostly there's so much trauma out there.
Yeah.
So, whatever the roll of dice for your genetics is, people are just not, I don't know. It's hard to find somebody who had a great childhood. Doesn't it feel like that?
And adulthood's pretty rough too.
Yeah, and it's adulthood is pretty. I mean, we are pretty much set up. If you, like Dr. Daniel Amen, he basically says, if I was an evil genius, this is how I would set up the world to have everybody have bad mental health. And pretty much every single thing is just America and most of the Western world. So
Yeah.
it is so hard to be mentally well. And I think the backwards thing is, I went at it a lot from the brain, but what I found is really the best hack is if you go to your heart, you bypass all that because essentially everybody's got their patterns and they're in their trauma and their amygdala is working and it's a lot of automatic, not conscious reactions. And if you spend more of that time in your heart and you're coherent, the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain does to the heart, which is really cool. When I first found that out, I thought that was so cool. Like, okay, why would you not work with your heart? And once you practice enough, and it's It's not a crazy amount of time. You don't have to go discover God on a mountain. You can spend a few minutes a day. There is technology to measure it, but you don't need technology at all. You don't need to buy
Yeah, you
anything.
feel it.
You don't need to do anything. And so it's really great that, you know, a lot of wellness stuff can be kind of elite. You have to buy this, buy this fancy food, go to these retreats in Peru, do all this stuff. This is so accessible for everyone, for the person who's working 3 jobs and has 4 kids and really can't handle life. Just take a few minutes a day, breathing in and
Yeah.
out of your heart. And I would recommend, like I talked about, starting to do those shift points because doing those shifts, it's going to change. What it does is it changes your perception, which changes your thoughts, which changes your feelings, which
Mm.
changes your life. So you start at the heart.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very-
it's really cool too that you just noticed. Like I like how you looked into our DNA because who you say I am from a DNA perspective is who I was before I started doing this heart work, and it was tough. It was a big struggle. Like I don't. I think there's a good chance that if I didn't find my way into the heart, that I'd be in a much worse place in my life right now.
Yeah, it
So
makes sense.
I'm
Yeah, it
blessed
makes
that I
sense.
found that. Yeah.
We see all the time people that are struggling with health concerns that are lingering, that are, I've done everything, I tried every supplement, did every food, and what they didn't do was address their nervous system and their perception, right? And they're stuck in this fight or flight, and it doesn't matter what you do at that point because the body's not trying to recover. So no wonder the supplements aren't working and nothing's working. And that thing is the byproduct of you being in a state of lack of recovery. The thing maybe isn't even real, doesn't need to be there, right? So, when you look up where the work you guys did, etc., there's a lot of it keeps coming up that you did a lot of work with firefighters and first responders. And is this around their traumas, and why was there such a need?
Yeah, well, basically, when you think about it, a firefighter, a police officer, they are responding to traumatic situations all the time, you know?
Mm,
And so, as you know, it's like if you are getting these calls to go out to traumatic, situations where people could be dead, it could be these awful experiences, and you do that again and again and again, what's going to happen is anytime you get that call to go respond to a scene, you're going to be in deep, deep, horrible states of fight or flight where your amygdala is hijacking your entire brain and you're not actually thinking clearly. You're not, the executive functioning in the brain is completely turned off.
mm,
So we see a lot of situations where it's like police and fire, they might not be responding the best ways at these scenes and people are very critical of them. But what's really happening to them? It's like, imagine having to get this call thinking you're going to this trauma, this trauma response every single time. And so the reason this heart coherence is so effective for police, for fire, or for anybody is because you can do this with your eyes open on the way to a crime
mm.
scene or the way to a trauma response, and it will open the brain functionality back up. So, what we teach the firefighters to do, the police officers to do is as they're going to the scene, you can breathe rhythmically through your heart while you're going there. And if you have the ability to think of something that puts you in a state of ease like we did, you will behave completely different. Your cortical function will be entirely enhanced, where it could otherwise be shut down. And so, we taught the Boston police, the Boston fire, and they were very grateful, and they're using it. So, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
people listening here today that went through the exercise that we did a few minutes ago, that heard you say, breathe through your heart, do next step, next step, next step, but they didn't even get past step one. How do you help someone? What is that practical advice to like learn how to breathe through your heart? And how do you know that you're actually doing it? What does it feel like?
Mm.
Yeah. So I always say to people, if you're over contemplating it, like you're in your head, which is fine. That's why you need to do some heart coherence, because
Yeah.
wanting to get things perfect and it really needs to, be something. I just always laugh and say, yeah, that's actually a sign that you're in your head about it.
Mm.
Just do it. Just like sense it and visualize it as best you can. It's not a competition to be perfect. Just do it the best you can. And like anything, you'll get better at it the more you do it. So just do whatever feels right to you and the most accurate to follow that instruction.
Yeah.
Relax and breathe.
I would
I
say
think
too, the biggest thing for me is uh, like finding different ways to open the heart. So one thing that we've studied a lot of is heart coherence plus other healing modalities and how that will change the heart coherence experience.
Mhm.
So simply, doing say breath work, right? What I find, there's a lot of people. I help a lot of people in recovery, and one thing that I see repetitively is that they are very in the head,
mm,
and they want to be moving constantly. It's more like it's harder for them to sit still. Not everybody, but I see this as a percentage of the population. And so one of the things that helps them is breath work because it's more active. They can be more moving, and so when they do breath work and then heart coherence, they're able to get into the heart after that breath work. Whereas without the breath work, they may have not been able to. So
mm,
if somebody's really closed off, anybody listening, if you're trying to get into the heart and you're not able to, I would encourage you to try to do other things that relax you before doing heart coherence and see what happens. Whether that's a cold plunge, what's the one that Ken Pataki does? The yoga nidra. We see a lot of people have tremendous heart coherence scores after yoga nidra and then diving into the heart. So
mm,
if you're in this place in your life where you're thinking too much and it's hard to get into the heart, I was with you. I was literally that same guy. And so
yeah.
don't give up. Try doing what we just did after you do something else. And I think, you know, that relationship that you could build with your heart, do not stop until you actually have created that relationship because I will tell you there is nothing else like it and it's so worth it.
Yeah, I'm
Mm,
glad that you said that, because I think too, like I'm just trying to think of everything that we've ever told people. Because I think sometimes too that people have a hard time just even being in their body.
Mm.
So I know we've done a thing where you even just lead somebody to just focus on your foot. Like if you might say, like, I can't focus on my heart. So if you just start with some other body awareness, most people spend all like you could go through 2 weeks and never be in your feet, never
mm,
be in your body. So just going through and feeling like, okay, let me be aware of my foot, my knee, my heart, just getting a little bit in your body, or what Kyle said was so wise, anything that will relax you before. So progressive body relaxation, you said yoga nidra,
Mm.
any kind of, sometimes there's little breath work like a physiological sigh, um, which is the quick inhale through your nose and the really quick one through your nose, long exhale through your mouth. That will calm your nervous system. And then you
mm.
can focus on your heart. So if you do have trouble, and we have a lot of things on our channel and that we do that kind of warms you up with some being in your body and being relaxed before you try to work on coherence.
Yeah, and I think like anything else, like you said, visualize it. Like actually close your eyes, see the air moving, reallocating from lungs over to the heart to the left, right? And one day there'll be this aha, wow, I felt it, right? And then you know you're there. So and then this type of thing isn't like building your bicep where it's just like slowly getting there. You're just gonna feel it, and then you're in it, and then you do it, and then you can work on. So now for people that you have this class coming up, actually fairly soon, in the on the 26th. So is this open to anybody? Do people have to know what they're doing, or do they show up and they learn there or not?
Yeah, so you would love this, but basically, like when I first started wanting to hold myself accountable and doing heart coherence, I found all the heart coherence meditations I could find online and I compiled them into a playlist. And
Mm,
I basically, asked five of my friends if they would be open to me sending them a meditation every day for 30 days. And if they would do it with me, and created this thing called the Heart Coherence Challenge. And so I
Hmm.
started doing that with my buddies. And as we were going through the 30 days, we were all starting to feel like more friendly towards each other, more happy, like feeling more lifted, more synchronistic. And at the end of the 30 days, everyone wanted to do another one. And
Mm.
so, that group of five became 500 and then 50,000 really quick. And so Leah
Mm.
and I, what we do now is we host these amazing events that are so much fun with the Heart Coherence Collaborative, where we send everybody, 50,000 people, an email every day with a heart coherence meditation. And then we interview phenomenal experts in the field, like we're hoping to have you come on. And it's just a big celebration of the heart space.
Mm. Beautiful. 50,000 people. Look at the impact. That's so cool. And if they didn't find you, they'd probably still believe that whatever their problems are real problems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too that's really cool that actually hooked me on heart coherence is just anybody who's Joe Dispenza fans. He talks about how the way to manifest anything is a clear intention plus an elevated emotion. And so heart coherence is elevating your emotion. That's what we're teaching people ultimately, is how to
Mhm.
vibe high, how to vibrate at the highest frequencies possible. And so when you do this work, a byproduct is often your dream life just unfolding,
Yeah. Yeah,
which is
you
pretty
see it,
cool.
and so there's plenty of science on this. Like, there's neuroscientists like Dr. David Rabin, for example, who are measuring the various frequencies of the mind: love, hate, happy, sad, and over and over again, gratitude and authenticity sit on top, right? So when you're living in that state, and when I say living in that state, literally doing it, practicing it, becoming it, and then living it, and it becomes your standard sort of response. And it can be, go to a Buddhist monk and do whatever you want. They'll find a way to thank you, you know, and they live in gratitude. And so this has been measured. Authenticity and gratitude. It's the healthiest place to be. And when you're there, the part of your brain that processes gratitude is also that what processes anxiety, stress, trauma. You can't do them both at the same time. So if you live in gratitude, it's very difficult to know what anxiety feels like because you just can't do it. The physical hardware is occupied, right? So another outcome, it's not just people think of these things as one and done, go attend and learn something, but it's more a shift in your identity and becoming that person that lives in gratitude. And then it's not a thing you do, it's a person that you are, right? And that's the ultimate outcome, which it's amazing that you guys are doing this for people. So in terms of how you do this, like practical terms, how do people actually find you guys and sign up?
Yeah. So if you go to heartcoherencecollaborative.com, you can register. It's free. And it is a totally free event, so it's for everyone. You don't need to buy anything or buy any technology or do anything. You'll do one heart coherence meditation or technique, and then we have these cool interviews on YouTube. And this challenge is going to be the biggest, and we have
Yeah.
just so many more interactive things too. So we're going to be doing live events on Zoom where there'll be live meditations
Mm.
or interviews and interactions with different guests. So it's going to be the most interactive and fun challenge.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool. It's so
Yeah,
good to do things with a group because you know how it is. Okay, you hear about heart coherence, you hear about meditation, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do that. And then you do it once or twice and then you stop doing it. That's the problem with everything. It's not that things don't work, it's that they don't work if you don't do them. So this 30 days is a great way to establish a habit. And whenever you're doing things in a group, you will be more successful.
Yeah, it's a very cool vibe. Kind of like, how you have like the Boston Marathon where everyone trains and they
mm,
run together and it's this big thing. It's like the Heart Coherence Collaborative, the 30-day Heart Coherence Challenge. It's a buzz. Like
I get it.
everybody's
Yeah,
there. We're supporting each other and doing the 30 days. And the transformations that we hear from people are pretty
So
mind blowing, like some healing physical ailments, but then we hear so many things of like, your event literally caused me to forgive my brother who's now become my best friend again, stuff like
mm,
that. So when you get into the heart space, there's so much healing that occurs.
yeah. And the
That's cool.
ultimate, yeah, it's like it will make you. I feel like everybody now wants to be like a better manifester, but
Yeah.
the actual key to that, and I think the key to life is it's like nothing outside yourself really does satisfy anything. You know, everybody knows you. Okay, so you finally you get the perfect guy, the perfect job, the perfect whatever, and ultimately none of that really makes you happy. Coherence, heart coherence, it's about like once you're creating states of love, gratitude, you're in them, suddenly you really don't need anybody else or anything else to be happening. Like you're not looking for love, you just are love. And when you are something, you don't need it. And that's actually the coolest way to live life because everybody knows like the more desperation energy you feel, the less you're going to get any of the stuff that you want. And the easiest way to manifest things is actually when you don't need them. And the ultimate not needing it is when you become it, when you are it.
I
Yeah.
feel like I needed my mic today so I could drop it. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have one to drop. That was pretty cool. So you don't need it because you are it, right? And you know,
Yeah.
it's funny 'cause I wanted to ask you something, but I think you already answered it, which is you guys are deep into this and it's become daily practice and it's been going on for some time. You're not novices by any means, right? So my thought was when someone is like you and is there and far past it, what's next? Well, because self-improvement never stops. And so what's next? Once you're coherent and you're there, what do you then start reaching for? And I think you kind of answered it to some degree, which is that you stop reaching because you are it, right? But I don't know
Yeah.
if you have any other thoughts there.
I definitely have some thoughts on that because when you get there, other things start unfolding to help you better your life. There's like different levels and experiences. But one thing for me, it's like, I'm doing heart coherence every day to like feel this bliss state. But obviously there's still things in my life that need to be worked on. And so it kind of helps those things come to the surface. And one thing that happened that involves you directly is I have a men's breathwork heart coherence group where we all get into the heart and we just talk, from the heart as men. It's really cool. But one of the guys in that group told me about your company, the DNA company. And
Ah,
so, what came from this heart experience was I did the DNA test, right?
right,
And so, if you look at me a year ago, I was actually eating pretty much the American standard diet, and I was feeling pain all the time, but I really wasn't knowing what I was allergic to or anything like that. And so I took your test, and one of the things that happened was I realized I had a gluten intolerance. And
mm,
so, I mean, that's mind blowing, right? And so I started this process of, okay, I'm in the heart, starting to like continually improve myself. I'm going to come off of gluten, and see what happens there. And then I came off of gluten and analyzing your test a little more. I realized there was more work I needed to do. So I came off of sugar. I came off of caffeine. I'm coming off of processed foods because, like you said, I'm just supposed to be a robot who's not this heart guy, but like I'm working to be the best version of myself. And your test really helped, man. It was the start of a new change in diet for me. Really, that's changed my life.
yeah, that's incredible. So essentially, there's what you're doing creates change, but it's kind of like an octopus. There's so many branches of change. You just explore all of them, and your identity becomes self improvement. How do I find the best version of myself? And that's where it is. Like, okay, this is done, this is thriving, but where do I need support? And you find those things. You keep getting better and better, and that's an awesome place to be. So my advice for everyone listening here. This was an awesome conversation. I've just touched on this stuff in terms of myself and the work I've done. Never been through a challenge of this nature. I'll probably join you guys on the challenge and participate and try and open up my heart and get coherence, right? So whoever's listening, join, sign up, connect, and I'll see you guys there. But free is a very good price, so it's hard to argue, right? So so there's no resistance there. But try it because for anyone that's not understanding it, not feeling it, not knowing the value that we provided, show up to day 1, and then show up to day 2, show up to day 3, and see what happens to your physiology and your biology. You're probably gonna stay till day 30, right? So, with that, guys, I think it was an awesome conversation. Timing is great. That's why I'm gonna join you guys. Love to learn it, dive in. So, thank you guys, and thanks for bringing this to the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.